Hi guys, Colt here with an update from my AtoZ Readathon. I have to have one book that represents each letter of the alphabet. I also seem to have acquired other books that weren't necessarily on my list, but I couldn't help it because I started reading a series and got sucked in. So this is going to be kind of lengthy. Let's get started. One of the books I read was The Unquiet Path by Kelly Armstrong. I picked this one out. I thought the cover was interesting and the blurb on the back was really intriguing. This book opened with a bang. You have Tess, who's an orphan, and she was left there as a child with only a note, which she wouldn't be receiving until she was 18 because that's their policy. She's 17, she has a year to go. She's been saving up her money because she wants to leave and have a career in fashion. In the first couple pages, the orphanage catches on fire. They don't have enough money to replenish it, so they're sending all the oldest out on their own, and the younger ones are placing into homes or sending to other orphanages. She gets a note. It simply has a phone number and an address. She calls the number and it's disconnected. But she discovers from the operator that's a rural area where that isn't abnormal and doesn't mean there's no one home. So here she is packing up what she has and on the train. So you start off with this mystery and you want to know what's going to happen. And Tess starts to make questionable decisions that lead to incidents that never had to occur. Felt like it never started. It had such a great buildup and then it just sort of petered. There was a lot of really slow parts where you weren't really finding anything out. It seemed like a lot of repetitive things happening. And then when it finally got to the end and it looked like some things were gonna start happening, it just peaked and I was really disappointed in it. So this was a 3-star read for me. Then you have Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Kahn and David Leviathan. I hope I didn't murder your last name, David. I picked this up because I love Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist and I expected that sort of same kind of fun and just youthful adventures that we all have when we're young and we don't have responsibilities the way we do when we're adults. Didn't quite get that. I think the main problem was I just really wasn't a fan of the female lead, Lily. Sad to say. She was super sheltered, super naive. It was such a contrast to Dash, who was wise beyond his years, and yet he marched to the beat of his own drummer. He absolutely knew who he was and what he wanted to do, what he was about. I loved him. I mean, he hung out in a used bookstore and he would look for books and he loved words. I really fell in love with him. But Lily, she's just so immature that I couldn't get into it. Maybe if they had both been on the same level, it would have balanced out a little bit. Long story short, her parents are going off honeymoon that they never had, and she is left with her brother who really doesn't watch her, but her brother and his boyfriend come up with this plan. They come up with a red moleskin diary where they write all these dares for the right person that finds them. And if he completes each dare, he turns in the notebook. The notebook goes back to Lily and she writes a note back. Dash, being the clever boy he is, decides he's going to turn it around on her. So he has dares for her. So they go back and forth and it's really cute and it's really fun. But then there are some things that happen that made Dash feel the way that I did about Lily, like, oh, maybe this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. All in all, it really was a fun read. I think I gave it a 3.5. I enjoyed it, but I just thought it could be better. I think I was just expecting more. Maybe I was still wanting more of Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, and these characters were just two completely different people, and it was a different pairing. All in all, I really did enjoy it, and I sped through it. We have A Murder for Max by John Lawrence Reynolds, which I picked up because it features their first female sheriff, and I definitely wanted to pick it up. She was solving a murder, and it fell flat. I mean, the characters were flat, the plot was slow until it had like this big burst at the end, but it didn't make up for the way it drug on. I just wanted more from it. I felt like it could have been more dynamic even though it was a short. So this was a 3-star read for me. We have Kill All Happies about Rachel Kahn. Again, I just said probably a couple books ago how much I loved her with Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, so I picked this up. It's basically about Vic Navarro, who is throwing a big senior bash at Happy's, which was like a locally established restaurant that was huge and was going out of business. She used to work there, and the owner gave her the keys for the night and said, go ahead, you know, it's going to be bankrupt anyway. The next morning, let's give the town something to remember. So I'm expecting like the typical 80s/90s movie where it's like that one big bash and, you know, everything comes out and it's a little crazy. There's a little drama, but it's just fun. I really didn't feel like I got that. I mean, basically because I didn't like the main character, Vic. I also didn't like some of the language that they used for each other. It just kind of turned me off of the book. And Vic, I didn't find her likable. I don't know. She was maybe kind of spacey and out there. She had no direction, and I just wasn't feeling it. Have the Happies, who are these people who are fans of the restaurant, and they want to see it one last time before it goes out of business. So you got this tour bus pulling up. You have bikers pulling up to this party, which basically implodes, and it's crazy. And then they go to the abandoned amusement park behind it, which was supposed to be haunted. Spoiler alert, it was not haunted, and I think I was disappointed by that also. I felt a little bit let down. Some cute things, and there's the drama between the three best friends that are featured in this, where secrets come out. But this was definitely a 3-star read for me because it just didn't live up to expectations I got when I read the back of the blurb. Everything by Nicola Yoon, which I couldn't wait to get my hands on. I definitely am one of those people who likes to read the book before they see the movie, and I have plans to see the movie, so I definitely had to get my hands on this. I liked it. It was a new take. Other than the movie which featured John Travolta many years ago called The Boy in the Bubble, I had never really seen anything about this particular disorder where your immune system is compromised and you are potentially allergic to everything. Anything could set you off and you would spiral. They wouldn't know how to fix it, and I mean, you would die. So you're living basically in a bubble, only in this, the girl's bubble is her house. Her house is warded against everything. Anybody who comes in, first of all, has to have like their medical history checked by her mother, who's a doctor, and they have to go through a decontamination process. And Madeline doesn't really know any better. It's all she's known for 18 years. Then a new family moves in next door, and there's an attractive boy, and they strike up this weird friendship because they see each other through the windows, and from there's an exchange of the IM addresses, and they go back and forth, and she starts to realize how much she's missing. And therein lies the problem because she starts to take risks. I did enjoy that part of it. I enjoyed the development of her sort of coming into her own and deciding what life would look like for her and what she felt was worth the risk or not worth the risk. But there was a plot twist that happened literally right at the end of the book, and they never really addressed the fallout from that. They never really talked about anything from that, and that kind of ruined this book for me. You can't just throw in a plot twist and then say the end and I'm out. Did you read this? If you read it, did it have that effect on you? Am I just greedy and I just want more? I'm really curious to see how other people felt about that. Next we have Yolo by Lauren Miracle. I didn't know what I was getting into. I picked this one up because it was shorter and it would give me a break between the longer books. And I was a little bit worried when I opened it up and I realized this whole story was told through text that are happening between three best friends who grew up together. This is their first freshman year away from each other. They've all gone in different colleges. But I actually felt like it worked really well because you were getting slices of their life. So it was like snapshots of what was going on. And it made for an unreliable narrative because you're only getting that person's point of view. So they could be spinning it, they could be telling you only what you want to hear, especially when you're talking about best friends talking to each other. It deals with a lot of real issues. I mean, it dealt with date rape, it dealt with depression, it dealt with that first heartbreak. I really enjoyed this. I felt like we saw these girls come into their own. We saw them mature and deal with that freshman year that I think we all remember how that was. And yet they managed to stay really close. I really enjoyed this. I think this was like a 3.5 read for me, 4-star maybe. Now I know that there are 2 other books I think that came before this. And I saw a lot of people say they felt this was lackluster in comparison. But because I didn't read the first 2, I couldn't compare them. So I'm curious to sort of pick those up and see what I thought. If you read the other 2, how did you think they compared? Did you enjoy this? Did you like the format, or was it a little bit too much for you? Definitely post comments below. I'd love to talk about that.